Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Piret Reinson. I'm head of marketing and communication at EstateGuru Group, and we are here to look into the real estate situation in all of the countries we operate in. So welcome to EstateGuru webinar. And please be active listeners, because we also take your questions after the discussion session, and you can send your questions at the Slido platform. It's sli.do, and please enter hashtag EstateGuru, and then we get all of your questions later. So, and I'm really hoping that you would also give us your feedback. How did you like the webinar? Because I think that if we get lots of positive feedback, it might become a new tradition of ours. Like we could do it quarterly, because we have really hundreds of registered people from all over the world, some very exotic countries like Pakistan and Singapore, so welcome all. And 1 hour usually flies very fast, so let's start with a little introduction round. So please introduce yourself, and also perhaps describe your relationship to investing. Do you invest, and where do you invest? Like shortly.
Hello, my name is Aleksandrs. I'm the country manager for Latvia, and thank you for inviting and for this great opportunity to meet all the country managers in person. Yes, about investing, my portfolio consists of P2P crowdfunding, obviously the EstateGuru, some stocks, and yeah, I'm mostly the brick and mortar guy, so real estate, obviously.
Thank you.
Yes, hi, I'm Matti Vansen, the Finnish country manager, and I could tell that my relationship to investing is that I have been investing, of course, to EstateGuru, as mentioned, and then also quite a lot of like capital investments, angel investments, also some stock portfolio and so on. But yeah.
I'd like to actually comment that Matti writes perfect portfolio overviews of his, because he's got a crazy big portfolio. Unfortunately, it's only in Finnish, but all the Finnish followers we have here, yeah, you can follow Matti on LinkedIn, and you will get nice overviews and insights into investment world. So thank you, Matti. But yeah, we can follow with Nico.
So I'm Nicola Piccone, the German country manager. I'm Italian, so it's a bit weird mix, but I'm in Germany since after my master in law, and it's almost 10 years experience in real estate transaction and business development. And I took in the meanwhile an MBA and also some courses in Harvard Business School. And I'm pretty, let's say, new in the investment side. So personally, I differentiate my portfolio through EstateGuru, obviously, but I'm, let's say, fresh, comparable to the other people, due to also the, let's say, market in Germany, real estate and some stocks, and as well, differentiate the investment.
Thank you, Nico.
Hello, my name is Artūras Konasevičius. I am the head of EstateGuru in Lithuania. Mostly I am keen on real estate investments, and I do mostly my investments in real estate stuff. I do invest in EstateGuru, let's say, a lot, and also looking for smaller real estate investment opportunities time to time, just to stay focused and sharp, and that's my mainly focus. I don't do kind of stock markets a lot or stocks itself, because that's actually, I'm a geek of real estate.
And hi everybody, my name is Michael Onahov. I'm head of sales based in Tallinn. As a person who owns a suit, I can assure you, I do have a stock portfolio. My advice is, by the time you buy your first suit, make sure you start investing. I bought my first suit for graduation from school. I should have started investing by then. That happened to me a little bit later. My main assets are in American tech. I also invest in Estonian startups and Estonian banking sector. So far, the portfolio has been doing pretty good. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. And I actually can't continue without mentioning that actually we have 4 women in the management team. So We like at the moment, women haven't made for country heads positions, but that will be most certainly because we are opening new markets on a regular basis. Currently 3 new markets in the pipeline, so hopefully next time I see some female country manager here as well. But yeah, we're all good with diversity. So moving on to the first question, and I personally see that I don't know whether it's like emotions or rationale, but something is happening on the markets which are not very logical, at least for me. Let's say the Finnish biggest daily Helsingin Sanomat, the front cover ad, which is the most expensive position, was asking people to sell their cars, not to buy one, which is like a sort of normal practice, that you advertise that buy a car. So, and let's say in Estonia, we can't buy any expensive apartments. They are sold before they go to public listings. So something is sort of going on the housing market and on real estate and all in all. So how do you see the situation in your countries? Is it also, do you see some sort of illogical trends or too many emotions around real estate, or yeah, how do you see the situation in your current market?
Well, in Latvia, I think the acquisition of the property is a pretty big milestone for any person. So it involves a lot of thinking, it involves taking on the mortgage, a lot of obligations. So I think there is much more rational than in some fast or spontaneous buying, maybe like cars or clothes, etc. So, and speculative deals is only a small part of the market. So I don't think Latvian market is so influenced by irrational decisions.
So everything is like stable, and you don't see any sort of
Let's say the market is growing. The market was influenced a lot by the undersupply, which was caused by different factors, by the fact that a lot of construction sites and projects were postponed in the beginning of COVID, and there is a shift in demand. But I would say it's high but stable growth, not some bubbles or irrational buying.
Thanks.
Yeah, I could almost copy-paste what Alexandras just said, but according to the brokers, real estate brokers union in Finland, the supply has been pretty low, which means that the demand has been really high, especially for the bigger apartments, and people want to get more rooms for working on a distance and so on. At the same time, of course, housing prices have gone up, but according to the union, they say that no bubble in sight or anything like that. The price increase has been still decent in that sense. They also told that the selling times have increased a bit because people are more knowing. They know what they want as sellers, which means that they are ready to wait for a longer time for a higher price, which means that quite many apartments go for higher than the asking price. So that, of course, pumps up the square meter prices up. And in the commercial real estate market, that still has been doing really well, actually. But at the same time, the rental levels have been a bit lower because most companies are shifting into some kind of hybrid strategies what comes to working on a distance and in the office. And
now,
so
by the way, what's the average price for per square meter when you buy real estate?
Like in Helsinki city center, it's way over 7,000, I'd say, somewhere between six to 7 usually. In the right city center, it can be up to almost 20,000 per square meter. And then if you go to, let's say, the suburbs or something like that, it can be as low as 3,000 or whatever. But also there has been quite a lot of price increase during the last times here. So especially the new production, it's pretty costly. I haven't seen anything in the capital region for lower than 5,000 for a while. in the new production. So
By the way, what's the pricing in Latvia, in Riga?
In Riga, we now see that yes, premium apartments are starting to reach even more than 5,000 euro per square
really?
meter, which did not happen for a lot of years. The new developments outside the city center, now the price is reaching 1,900, 2,000 euro per square meter, and the old stock is also growing, and I think now it's around 1,300 euro per square meter already. We see such deals on the market.
So let's move over to Germany, the biggest market of ours.
Yeah, getting back, let's say, of your question or introduction about autos. So probably in Germany, an ad like that would be sell your auto and buy a new one. So in
Car, we are talking about
yeah,
cars. Yeah,
so,
yeah. Auto in
car.
German,
Yeah,
but
sorry.
yeah, car in English.
So the things is the Germany is the biggest economy in Europe, and obviously it's really irrational and has a stability that you don't see in other markets. So due to the fact that it's also one of the biggest production in the world for cars, you cannot see something like you see maybe in Finland. You know, there are obviously cities that have this kind of emotional side, and they are pretty green, like Berlin that is trying to almost cancel the autos from the city center and things like that. So, but for the rest of the Germany, when you go more in the south, a car is the most important asset, comparable to for example, to houses. So the real estate market is really big, and it's impossible to give some a specific definition of everything. But if you compare, you know, the east part of Germany, most of the houses are still not split. So all the apartments are still united under one single land land register. So you have to buy either 20 apartments a block, or you don't have the opportunity to buy a flat, a single flat. So there is obviously a high demand because international investors are looking for the German market, but there is not enough offer. In the other areas, like maybe the most rich side of Germany or the top 7, obviously the real estate is an important investment, but it's seen as investment and not as an emotional kind of, let's say, way to see the asset. I'm Italian, so I can say that the first things that the Italian try to do is to buy a flat, because a flat means to be safe, so it's really emotional. For German, it's more rational. So basically, the real estate is seen more as investment as an emotional side. Politic in the last years is trying to put on the emotional side as well the real estate investments, but we can go deeper maybe on another point of this webinar.
Thank you. What about Lithuania?
In my personal understanding, 99% of all our decisions, they are emotional. And all the people are using rationality only to justify their emotion.
I do agree, by the way.
That's how we, in my opinion, when people buy apartment, everything which people are doing, they are doing it based on emotions. And we could consider the situation on the market which we have now, that it happens to in a very rare circumstances like we have now. We have shortages in supply. We have such things which in other markets or in other circumstances we could have even called it cartel stuff. When developers make some decisions together, and that of course affects the prices, etc. So we should talk about these things a little bit more. Even though at the moment we had, well, even though that, let's say, the prices are increasing, but they are increasing due to demand and supply things, but at the same time, we are in a historical level of the ability to buy an apartment. Even though that the prices are rising, people, they were never that able to afford it with the salaries increasing, etc. So even though that at the moment in Vilnius city center, you wouldn't get a proper apartment for less than for around 4,000 euros, etc. Which 5 years ago it would have been around 2,500 euros and even less. So these changes, we do have them, but emotions, they never left anyone. So as long as we have such emotion in the last 2 years that people who had to make some lessons with their children, they couldn't go to kindergarten, everyone needed some more of their personal space. So of course, people got into the emotion that they need to change something, and of course that increased the demand. And at the same time, supply went a little bit down. So it's pretty much obvious and logical that the prices has increased and there is a shortage on the market, etc. But we must also understand that it is not permanent. It is a permanent it's such thing which will sort out in a short period of time.
Thank you.
For Estonia, we must first of all consider that Estonia has had the highest growth in real estate, I think, in the entirety of Europe.
Yeah.
Is this rational? In my opinion, yes. Yes, it is. The prices are what they are for a reason. Estonian economy has been booming over the past 10 years. Tech sector, where around 10% of Estonian population is employed, has been huge. Estonia now has the highest place in the world by unicorns, $1 billion companies per capita. So banking sector is very, very efficient. People earning good money. And of course, COVID had a huge say in this situation. I can talk from personal experience. I purchased my own property just to cover my and my wife's basic needs, because we didn't spend a lot of time in our flat. We worked in the office, traveled a lot, went out a lot, so the apartment was just a place for us to sleep. And I didn't want to overextend my portfolio towards real estate, because there are a lot of other markets that outperform real estate when it comes to investment. Now, COVID happened. I have an international career, so I was able to work from home, as a lot of people did. Of course, my wife did too. Now we need a much, much bigger place, because our apartment is a place where we spend most of our time. We work in our apartment, we enjoy leisure in our apartment, we can't travel, can't go anywhere. Well, now we can, we're vaccinated, but before that, yes, it was a real problem. So we're now shopping for a bigger place. We can afford it if we could find it. That's a real issue, because right now, I think we're experiencing a huge undersupply of apartments, buildings, housings in Estonia, and especially in Tallinn, where a lot of international people are coming to work as well. As soon as we solve the situation, and I sincerely hope EstateGuru is going to be on the problem-solving side, prices will stabilize. But so far, they have been growing, and I really don't see any super reasons for them to decline anytime soon.
Well, thank you. Really insightful overview. We see actually that EstateGuru's loan amounts increase like month over month, and we have reached 20 million sort of amount, like volumes month by month. So we don't see it decreasing, rather increasing. So we see lots of entrepreneurs coming to our platform to get financing. And here comes the most often asked question of all times, while at least during my career here for 2 years. So why entrepreneurs come to EstateGuru and not to a bank? So this is really the most often asked question, and yeah, you have a direct contact with all of these entrepreneurs, and you know their mindset and everything. So why they come to us? Perhaps Arturas will start this time.
Yeah, so basically there are mainly, I would say, like 3 already certain reasons when you approach the bank. So first question from the bank is, how old is your company? Is it something above 3 years? It doesn't even matter. Let's imagine we are bringing whatever the best project in the city. We are bringing it with us, and we are coming. Hey, I have a very nice project, and it's in the city center, and it's very nice. And the bank asks, show me the project. Everyone thinks it's this way, but in general, bank says, okay, it's good. How long is your company old? Oh, less than 3 years? You should grow a little, and then you can come. But I have a good project, but it doesn't matter. In the rules, it's written this way. Then if your company is older than 3 years, then it's about the balance sheet and the cash flow. So how many entrepreneurs in any of these countries, they might come with such a portfolio, who might have good history, good track record, and stable cash flows. I think that in all Europe and everywhere around 60% of entrepreneurs has nothing to do with it. And only when they get through this, they can go to the bank. So in all of the other cases, it's a place for venture capitals and platforms like we. That's why we are bridging the gaps in this financing, because we are providing such a bridge. We are allowing those entrepreneurs to grow to the level to become able to get this traditional financing, which is, and of course for the bank, second thing is that for the bank, when the loan amount is less than million or 2 million, even for Lithuania, it's even like no one is hiding it. If it's less than 2 million for the bank, it is not very. It is 2 million for 1 year is not what bank is interested in, because it's a very small amount. For them, it is the time of their loan manager or some manager from the office. It is not that attractive, because they can finance a project for 20 million and then make another 20 million or 40 million in mortgages, in mortgage loans, to give them out for 30 or 40 years, and that's where their income is. They don't want to read our applications for 1 million, spend the same time amount, etc. So that's a very simple reason and very obvious why the entrepreneurs are choosing EstateGuru in the beginning rather than the bank.
But how do you see the situation in Finland, Matti?
Well, this is a topic I could talk like forever. But the main things are that, first of all, I think our website already answers pretty well that it's less hassle, more flexibility, and the speed. And the speed is like one key factor, I would see, because especially in Finland, we have still quite strong banking sector, and like people are still pretty conservative in that sense that they still think that if you have a business, you can go to a bank. Well, now those entrepreneurs who have been dealing with constructions even for 40 years or 50 years or whatever, they cannot get the bank financing anymore, which means that the European regulation, Basels and so on, they have affected that financing so much that, for example, the most biggest banks and the local banks in Finland have started to cut down their balance sheets, especially on the corporate side. So they are just leaving the housing side, the consumer side. So, for example, OP banks and so on, they had targets for how much they have to cut those corporate balance sheets. And what that means, sadly, is that they are left with those companies who actually wouldn't possibly even need a loan, like double or triple A credit-rated companies. And that's an issue. There's a gap in the financing. I have been in crowdfunding for, I think, 7 years now. And I have seen also the, let's say, emotional paradigm shifting towards more accepting towards alternative financing, especially. And especially in Finland, I don't know how it's in other countries. We have financiers for up to 200,000, even to 300,000 maybe. You can get cash flow financing towards your good cash flow. But for example, construction financing, property-backed financing, there are no operators in that field. If you go to 10 million and up, then you have again operators in the financing sector. You have big funds, even banks are getting more interested in 10 million deals and so on. But there's a huge gap between 300,000 up to 10 million. So I think therefore EstateGuru, especially in Finland, is actually solving the, let's say, market problem in that sense. So yeah, there's a lot of business to do, and especially in the construction financing, because banks have knowingly, even some banks have totally stopped financing constructions. So yeah.
So is the situation the same in Germany? Because actually Nordic big banks are also in the Baltic, so we are all connected actually. But how do you see is these smaller deals still attractive for German banks, because banking industry there is like enormous?
German and bank probably is even the same word, you know. Bank is Germany or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but we spoke time ago saying that banks are leaving and are institutions that are century years old, and the alternative financing, the alternative investment is not even more the future, is the present and the future. I mean, Matt is in the crowdfunding since 7 years, so it's not meaning that it's something new from today. And banks since ages are still following criteria and idea and checklists that are maybe, I don't know, 50 years old. And since 2008, really, there was a completely stop on financing. So as well in Germany, you have to be at least 3 years old. You have to be at least with good balance. But who is making investments or construction cannot have a good balance because they have to invest the money. If nobody's giving the money, you cannot have a good balance. They have to have a good track record. And the question is, okay, you invested, I don't know, average of 1 million projects, and then you want to do money now for 2 million. So you cannot never go on the step up with the banks. So who is doing the development? No, it's not a known company. You should choose somebody else. I have my own company. No, it's not working. So banks are problematic and basically also unfair because you wait months for an answer and they will probably give you a negative answer. By EstateGuru, for example, and why they are coming and choosing this high interest instead of the low interest. I mean, the interest rate in Germany is one of the historical lowest point, but they want minimum 10 years. The fee for exit are unbelievably high. And they would try to do everything. I'm not talking bad, but it's the structure and the old system. They would try to do everything for keep the money somehow in the investment because, as Artura said, they're interested to have a long-term investment. So German market is really constant and is growing and is really stable. But anyway, you have great opportunity of new developments. New cities are coming, and the real estate market is faster than the banking one. You need to see an expose, make a decision, send an LOI the next day, try to have in the between a view probably and a due diligence before setting up the notary date 2-3 weeks after the first offer, and who is giving you the money in 3 weeks? So we are giving this service, and this is basically why the people are coming to us. Then a bank can be an exit strategy after 3 months, 4 months, and we are not talking only about little enterprises or private people or little projects. We are in discussion with project developers that are doing more than 100 millions per year of development. And they have the same problem with the bank, even if they have a track record with that bank since years.
So who are our borrowers in Germany at the moment? Like, because we just recently started, so how do you see it? Is it more like real estate developers or also just entrepreneurs, SMEs?
We started obviously with, let's say, everybody was skeptical. I mean, I don't say that we explain our product to the developers or to real estate owners, so the borrower is not coming super excited to spend probably 8, 9, 10% per year about interest. But then when they understand that there is no extra fee of free, so the repayment before the contract ends, the fees are all clear and there. We are really able to give an answer in a couple of days. And they will get the money in a couple of weeks. And we have a first rank, so this is the same security as senior debt, as a senior loan has a bank. So they, in the beginning, do not understand, and then they calculate that. And we have in Germany at the moment, and probably also the other countries, 100% returning rate from the borrowers. Due to this, we also made now a block, a maximal cap from each borrower, because everybody was coming back and saying, okay, then I would like to do this and this. And basically the borrowers are little companies or experts, also older people, let's say, that's opened the first time a single company, after 30 years experience in a big bank or in a big project developer, and due to their track record for the bank, they are just an expert, but maybe they have 40 years experience and they've done billion of development in Germany. So we have all kind of types, so from little company to the big company. And obviously due to the fact that we are starting slowly to get into the market, and even more, let's say, important developers are coming to us instead of to banks or competitor, or to use our product as a bridging, so for a short time, till a bank will not get in or make the final decision.
Yeah, and actually Germany and Estonia are making the biggest volumes of our loan amounts. So who are our borrowers in Estonia? Because actually we originally, EstateGuru started in Estonia, in Tallinn in 2013. Of course the biggest number of borrowers comes from Estonia because this is where we originate. But yeah, currently, has the situation changed since we started, or how do you see Estonia's borrowers?
First of all, I wanted to get back to the first question about EstateGuru and the banks, because in my opinion, I have a slightly different opinion than from everybody else. I don't think it's fair to compare directly EstateGuru and the banks. Those are not competitors, but just different tools that you can use at different times. Now, when it comes to everything, finance, investment, even life, there's always a trade-off. You win something, you lose something. In investment, it's risk and return. In our case, it's speed and interest rate, for instance. So if you want something fast, you pay a little bit extra. If you're willing to wait, you can get a cheaper deal. But when it comes to developers and people who would like to work in the housing market, get financing from EstateGuru or the bank, don't view it as either. You either have to do EstateGuru or the bank. Use them as two different instruments that you should be able to use at different times. Actually, you should be able and understand your way about both of those instruments, because you don't always know when you're going to need one of them. So can I tell you that, hey, EstateGuru is going to be an amazing place for you to finance your project? No, I cannot. Different people, different circumstances call for different solutions. Should you try EstateGuru, see how it works, so you're prepared for the next time you might need it? Yes, of course. It's called shopping around, making research, being able to have as many options as are possibly viable. When it comes to our clients and our customers in Estonia, Estonia has been here for a very long time, so we have all types of different customers, all types of different projects. If you go on our platform, you'll see projects for 500,000, million, even more. What you won't see are the vast amount of very, very small projects, 30, 40, 50,000. If you sign up for Autinvest, though, you'll be able to see them, because those projects are usually gathered in like what, a minute or so. So yeah, in Estonia, where people had a long time to get introduced and to get to know, get to understand our product. Yes, they understand this for everybody, for all types of different developers, for all types of different businessmen. So if you haven't tried EstateGuru, try it, just so you know what you're talking about, so you have the experience. Very important.
If I may add actually to Mihal's comment, you put it really well that in different time points you use different solutions in financing. How I see it also, in addition to that, is that we are like risk dividers in the market with the banks. As I mentioned, for example, banks are turning down applications in construction financing, yet they want to finance ready apartments, right? So, for example, in Finland, most commonly, the party who pays our loan back is actually a bank. So that means that we finance the construction, and then the bank finances the buyer, which means that actually it is a bank paying us off. So I see that as like a risk division and diversification in the market in every sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one cannot live without another. So our borrowers and developers are actually supplying the market with the properties which banks are financing. But what I also would like to add that our borrowers appreciate the expertise we have in a team. because EstateGuru was founded by real estate professionals, by the developers, and most of the team has experience in real estate, in brokerage, in sales, in construction, in valuating. And the risk department is mostly coming from the banking background. So when we talk to the borrower, we know what he needs, and we can understand him and provide a very fast and suitable solution.
Mm-hmm.
We can also fulfill maybe a little here. Basically, we shouldn't say, and I say, and everyone understands that bank itself is not an evil. It is some kind of partner where you, in order to have it as a partner, you must reach to some level.
Yes.
It's
yes.
I could compare it, let's say, to a race car.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can say that a lot of us have a driving license, but does that mean that I can go to Formula One car or a rally racing or whatever? I will go to Estonian rally or whatever, finish, and I will win something, even though that maybe I can afford a better car or something like this. So for the developers, if they want to work with the bank, they must have even some special manpower. They must be able to prepare some special procedures. The money movement is absolutely different, and I kind of understand where misunderstanding comes for, because when the retail person sees the loan amount of 300,000, he says like, oh, it's a pretty large amount, and why wouldn't someone go to the bank for that? It's a large amount. But it is very, very difficult to explain that for the bank in commercial projects, 300,000 euros is a very, very small amount, because bank is interested in 20 million. Well, even 5 million is not too much. Only small banks are interested in it. So that's where misunderstanding comes for that, because all that amount from 50,000 I'm not even talking about. So from 50,000 to...
We are very respectful towards banking also.
Yep,
Sure. Consider them as a
basically
partner. So let's move on to investment world, back to the investment world. Of course we don't have enough time and perhaps also expertise, like cover all investment tools and investment categories, but let's say we are more experts on real estate and real estate investments. So how do you see, like for example, I come from Tallinn, from Estonia, so even my friends, like when they have savings, they feel confident when they buy a real estate compared to like diversifying all these savings and investment portfolio between, like, let's say stocks, let's say secured loans like we offer, backed by real estate. It's kind of also, yes, we can't say that it's investment into real estate, but kind of indirect investment still, and it's much more, actually your portfolio works much better to look into the future, like long perspective. Is it like, I'm describing the Estonian situation, but I see that actually in Finland, in Germany, people have this tradition of investing since, I don't know, childhood. Their families have these portfolios and give over to children. So is it different? And then cover Baltics. Let's make it in this turn. That how do you see the investment culture, and how would you describe the advantages of investing directly into real estate, or then indirectly through crowdfunding platforms?
If I may answer. Yeah, actually, it's a funny thing in Finland is, I don't know how it's in other countries, but they made like a questionnaire for Finnish people, like what are the approved ways of getting rich? And I can tell that investing was not one of them.
Really?
Like winning a lotto or something was more accepted by the public than investing.
Oh God.
Oh.
Yes, but still, like I think, like the general public has been more towards investing, like lately, and there has been a lot of discussions about investing, and people are flowing into the investment platforms, different kind of forums and whatnot, and that can be seen already on Facebook groups and so on. As mentioned, in Finland we don't have that kind of a reputation in investing like that. and generally it's passed, as you mentioned, like from parents to children, the good habits of investing. But then in families where the parents don't invest, quite often it is sadly so that the children won't start investing, or they start later on, which is always worse than starting earlier. Then, like investing into real estate versus, for example, our product or some other product. Well, I can use my own example. Like a couple of years ago, I sold all of my investment apartments away, and also the shareholder. I was a shareholder in a real estate investing company, and well, main reason was that I wanted to cash out. At that point, I didn't trust in the market that much because I saw that the prices were increasing. At the same time, I, for example, took this job, which means that I just didn't have the time to manage with the tenants and so on. And therefore, I have after that made only like direct investments into stock, and as you can see from my portfolio report, also into EstateGuru products. And I have a couple of reasons why I invest into EstateGuru products. First of all, I can see the machinery, I can see the engine, and I can trust the product. The second thing is that I don't want to deal with tenants, so we still have a really solid and good rate of return. So I don't have to deal with tenants. And in the worst case scenario, if there is a default, EstateGuru investors still, as I will get money first when the asset is being liquidated. So if I were to invest in direct real estate, I have to take care of all of that myself and pay for it and get a real estate brokers and pay to them and pay to the bailiff or whatever. So that takes time, it's a hassle, and at the same time I know that it's like a turnkey solution, and I feel that in the investment side currently I feel a bit lazy. So therefore I also use auto invest. I don't then invest like almost anything like manually, because otherwise
too much work.
Yeah, it would be a second day work to go through all of the valuations, especially like in other countries I cannot read Estonian that well. So if it's a 30-page valuation and I can only see the end result, that what is the valuation, that is the only thing I can read from there. So yeah.
And what's the situation in Germany? How do you see
Germany? I mean,
being of course like Italian, so
as well as Italian, maybe I can also compare that. So in general, we have to maybe differentiate two things: so investment and acquisition. So the investment is something you do because you want to get profit on that. An acquisition is something you're buying an asset because you need to use that. So let's take the example of Mikhail. You said that you don't invest in real estate, but you bought a house because you need it.
It's an investment. It's part of my portfolio.
It's part of your portfolio, but it's something that you need. So when we talk about real estate investments, it means obviously to buy different houses, what Matti was saying. So taking care about that. So you have to find an exit, a broker, tenants. If a pipe is broken somewhere in midnight, you have to go there and find a solution. Is a job. And basically in Germany, and if I compare example like in Italy, you buy a house because you need a house and it's emotional. So I need a roof, I need a house. Maybe I will sell it in 40 years as investment, but today I need a good. In Germany, a real estate market is really particular. It's more for profits or companies that are doing such a kind of investment. If you think about Berlin, as I said, most of the houses are not available to be sold. And till a few years ago, there were contracts of rental contracts that you could heritage from your father or your grandma. So there are some apartments where you still pay 2-3 euro per square meter, and costs, so water, electricity, are more expensive than the rent. So the culture of German is basically to be on the safe situation. They keep a lot of money in the bank accounts, and the bank accounts are obviously giving you not kind of any yield, or even you get a minus on the bank account just to keep the money, but it's the safest point for the German culture. They invest or they acquire a lot of insurances, bank and insurance. Germany, only think about the big companies is Germany. So they are just thinking about themselves more or less, sorry, I don't want to be like direct, but it's the individual person and the needs that have this individual. In Italy, if you compare, you buy assets or you buy real estate, that is the first investment you do for your future kids. So you live for the future generation. And this makes you the opportunity to make investments. When you think only about you, so it's more conservative and gets to the emotion side again. And what we have to don't forget, 20, 30 years ago, you could buy for such a price. And the salaries were different in proportion. So quality of life or the balance was quite different. I mean, thinking about Germany and Italy. Today, you have to pay 4, 5, 6 times than the cost of 20 years ago. And the salary is half of what you're getting your father or whatever, maybe in average. Or thinking also about Italy. So how can you purchase or do such investment if you don't have the capital? And the alternative is actually to be not involved directly in the real estate acquisition, but to get, like through EstateGuru, the opportunity to invest somehow in the real estate, don't being involved in all the due diligence, follow-up problems after the notary that could happen, and so on. And anyway, the real estate as a guarantees, so as a first rank Sicherheit, so in German, so security, and having a return that is even better to any other. And so the ratio between a return and security is higher than other investment
So we might say that actually a quarter of our investors, 25,000 investors, come from Germany. We might say that they are front runners. They are giving this good example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I've seen it like because when we started, we didn't do any sort of big marketing budgets, were small. So actually, we might say that these are actually front runners. All these very innovative people who have joined EstateGuru. Because 25,000, it's a big number from Germany. So nice job. Thank you. But we are moving closer to the end of the seminar already, so I'm reminding everyone to send us questions. We will take questions after the seminar, so you can send them on the Slido platform. It's sli.do, by entering hashtag EstateGuru. And we will cover them later. If we can't answer all the questions, we will make a blog post covering questions and also sharing this webinar because we are recording it. But perhaps coming closer to the end and looking into the future, because at the moment we have been covering like the current situation. So where do you see the biggest growth potential, or how do you see the market going forward?
Yes, see, in Latvia, and maybe coming back a little to the previous question, the investing it should be developed as a culture. You have to teach it in school, in high school, so people have to be educated. And looking back in the history, you have to understand that investing is about building wealth, and it's not 5-year or 10-year span. It takes centuries, it takes families, and that's the biggest difference between Baltics and Western Europe. Our history started building wealth 30 years ago. And for the first 10, 15 years, we were not building wealth. The people were covering their basic needs. And from that, we can also see the opportunities. And for example, I hear a lot of talks that the demand for the housing will drop, that today it's unsustainable. But if you look at history, for example, in Latvia, starting from 1960s to 1990s, there were built 14,000 multi-apartment houses. Looking back for the last 30 years, from 1906, only 1,600 buildings were built, 9 times less. And the lifespan of the buildings built in Soviet times, they were designed to last for 50, maybe 60, 70 years. And that term is coming. So people need new housing. The old apartments, they are unsustainable. The maintenance costs, the heating costs are enormous. And well, it's sometimes even cheaper to change for a new apartment because the utilities will be lower and the mortgage price you're paying will be just a little bit more. So in Latvia, I see that we have hundreds, thousands of people who in coming 10 or 20 years will need new housing. And also it's worth to mention that last year we had a change in the legislation, and now actually the law for the tenants, for the landlords is much safer, and we already start seeing that a new developments, buy-to-let developments are coming on the market. Big developers are starting to develop rental buildings, and funds are coming in, so the rental market will continue to grow. And comparing actually to Western Europe, the amount of people renting flats in Baltics is several times smaller than in Western Europe. So this market is quite undeveloped now.
Do you agree, Arturas and Mihail?
I actually feel like we should a little bit stay at the previous question about investment, because there's a very interesting clash of cultures here. We've talked to Nicola and Matti, who come from the countries who haven't experienced Soviet Union, so they have a lot of expertise in investment just through culture and their parents. For instance, I'm pretty sure that Alexander, Arturas, and me were denied this opportunity. Like, never talked about investment in my family. The biggest play my family made when it comes to investment is that they invested in sugar right before the European Union, because there was a rumor that the sugar prices are gonna skyrocket after that. So for some time, our sugar portfolio was very, very good. We were very good when it came to sugar. But the culture is changing. It's absolutely incredible. There's one person at our job. He's 18 years old, an amazing person. I asked him if he has a financial portfolio, and he told me, like, yeah, like, of course, like, I'm not an idiot, like, of course I do. So we see this amazing clash in change of the culture when it comes to investment as well. When it comes to your question about what has highest growth potential, to this question I have the correct answer. No one knows. I mean, whoever tells you that they know where the best potential is not your friend. They're lying to you. Nobody knows what's going to happen. The financial world is like the game of musical chairs, you know, and you have to guess when the music stops playing. Warren Buffett said that, you know, diversification is for those people who have no idea what they're doing. So my advice, diversify. Diversify because you're not Warren Buffett. Neither am I, neither is anyone here, or if you're watching this channel right now, you're not Warren Buffett either. I don't think that he's watching. So diversify. Make sure you have all your bases covered. Learn about different instruments. Try everything a little bit just to see what your personal connection to the instruments is going to be. Have a plan and make sure you stick to it. Start slow because, well, everyone has a plan. Mike Tyson once said that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Because, I mean, as soon as you take a loss on your portfolio, your judgment is going to be flawed. So make sure you practice, practice, practice. Start little and keep developing your portfolio. When it comes to biggest potential, well, obviously, yes, the tech market has been growing tremendously well. People have been talking about the overheating on the tech sector for 5 or 6 years right now, and it hasn't stopped. Maybe it will continue growing at the same rate for another 10 years. Maybe a market crash is coming in 6 months. Do we know? No, we don't know. So when it comes to investment, your risk is split into roughly 2 parts. Now there's market risk and there's operational risk. When it comes to market risk, you can't do anything about it. Things will happen as they happen. You have no way of knowing. When it comes to operational risk, you are the one in the driving seat. You can actually reduce it quite significantly. Make sure you know who you're working with, either regulation, either no regulation, what's the track record. A lot of companies nowadays are self-audited, publish their reports. Make sure you study them a little bit so you understand who handles your investment, who handles your funds. If you reduce your operational risk and diversify, I'm pretty sure in the long run you're going to be good.
Thank you, Mihail.
Yeah,
all
maybe
golden
to
words.
fulfill a little bit, to say, to explain Lithuanian behavior with investments in a nutshell. So we have over 18 billion euros in the accounts of the retail people, and at the same time only over 5, like close to 6 billions on the account of the businesses, meaning that Lithuanian people do love to keep their money in the socks or somewhere else in other secure places where mouths of inflations are eating it greedily. And like I always say, money which doesn't work, you know what they do? They cry, simply somewhere in the corner. So I also been to one event a couple of weeks ago and discussed it with one Lithuanian banker that there is everyone knows how American dream looks, but we do already have Lithuanian dream. It's when you have a job, or there is a couple who have good jobs for some middle salary. They have an apartment which they bought in credit, but then with savings they buy another apartment which they can rent out. So if you have one apartment where you live and you have one rental apartment, your life is already successful and there is nothing to wish for. And we colleagues have already spoken. What does it mean for people to have apartment on your own and try to rent it, etc. So all the risks of it. So what I would wish to Lithuanians to start diversifying and try in other assets in your portfolio. Try not to buy that rental apartment and put that money in other asset classes.
Yeah, I totally do agree with you. Yeah, so
you were saying about the 25,000 German investor we have at the moment on the platform. That is 1/4 of the investor portfolio of EstateGuru. That is actually surprising, because we said about let's say the character and the idea of investment for the German average, let's say. So this is unbelievable to think that 1/4 of the portfolio from investor is made by German people, even though we are not fully operating in Germany. So the future on this point of view might be, even if I don't have a crystal ball, really interesting, let's say. What I can say about the next near future on the real estate market. So Germany demonstrated to be a really stable and with a percentage of development always linear in compared with the next years. They were all scared about some bubbles that could be probably in Berlin, because Berlin had the most biggest development in the last years. So obviously it's capital only since '94, and it's not even a real European capital yet. So something due also to Brexit will happen to Germany, so the growth will be probably even more. But as Mihai said, I don't want to be, let's say, go out of the balancing and say what will happen or so. But I believe that the stability will stay and the growth will continue to be linear and not so dramatic or dangerous on this point of view. So how do I see the near future as well?
Thank you. And Matti, last but not least.
Repeat the question.
Yeah,
so many answers already.
Like growth potential in your market, like Alexandros was talking about, like most of the housing was built in Soviet times. And
where I see, at least for EstateGuru, the most growth potential is the construction financing. Because, as I have mentioned a couple of times, the banks are turning down those construction financing applications. So that means that there is a huge opening in the market. We are talking about a couple of billions. For example, this year, new construction grew again almost 20% or something like that. Although the raw material prices have gone up and now they have come down and so on. During COVID time, we didn't have that much workers because we have a lot of workers coming from Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and so on. So during pandemic, it was a bit stopped or at least stalled. Now again, we are on the growth track, and where I'm expecting the most growth is like definitely the construction financing.
So thank you, gentlemen. Actually, we have covered the seminar part, and we have got lots of questions. So before we go further with questions, does anyone want to kind of to say something for the closure? I thank you. Actually, I really enjoyed our seminar, and lots of good advice here, and good thoughts and good insights. I mean, I don't know. Arturas usually has something like witty, and Arturas likes to say something witty, and sort of perhaps you have something to close the seminar part. Sorry for my spontaneous sort of.
Like I mentioned, we see that there are still so many people who have spare money on their account, and just all the largest companies and everyone would be just blessed, and they would be the happiest companies on the planet to get their money into work. So just our platform can get all the money which doesn't work and cry hard. Just make it work. Even though you have €5 or €50 or €5, it's always better to make it work rather than just stand in the corner and earn you nothing. There are plenty of different developments in the world. There are large deals, smaller deals, and absolutely different collaterals and different businesses. So just make your money work, and we have EstateGuru for it.
Thank you, and thank you, dear audience. So we will go now over to a Q&A session. So, we've got plenty of questions, and I'm very happy to actually start with a very witty one. Thank you for this one, because our webinar headline talked about the castles and the real estate in the Riga city center. So what about the castles? And what's the plan for those?
Yeah, I could imagine this question, you know, I mean, it's the title of the webinar. But about the castle, so a little preview. Germany, it used to be fragmented till a couple of hundred years ago. So in any little area, there was the lord of the situation having a castle or kind of chateau, for say on the French side, or something that was looking like a big house or a big villa of today. So we got the borrower in the beginning of our experience in Germany that said this, for me, really good idea to start to work on different opportunities on those castles. So it was not only to somehow find a nice building, so a nice castle in a middle-sized city or also little cities near big suburban area, and to retake a new life to those kind of castles, or old buildings, so historical building. So we have from one side real estate developer that is bringing to new life amazing assets. We are talking really, really nice objects, and some are also 500 years old. So there are, I mean, on the architectural point of view and on the real estate point of view, a really nice project. And this is not only new life to the asset, but it's also new life to the city. Those castles normally are in the middle of the city, and to do renewing this castle, it moves a bit of tourism again, and the city gets a new somehow evaluation of the assets around. And the most important things is those castles or those historical buildings, so because some are not proper castles at all, are actually going to be used, and some are still already operating, as social apartments. So it's not only a new life to the castle or to the asset, it's a new life to the people that are going to live in a castle. So imagine that in Germany there is a law that everybody has to have a roof on the head. And such a people normally are sent to really old Soviet building that maybe looks not so nice or so good as the Riga one or the ex-Soviet area, but are really places where the people are going to send to die or to just have a roof, that's it. And so people like that are paid, or the rent is paid through insurance or government help, so through the welfare. And this concept gives a new life also to these people that are not living anymore in a really bad suburban area, in a really bad quality building, but in a high level class castle with green and water around. And this gives also new life to the city, because those people normally have parents that goes to meet them. So the coffee shop, the restaurants, the city start to have a new life. So this is actually the base of the project and the idea of the project developer that is our borrower. And this is also why it's supported from EstateGuru, because it's a new life, it's a new way of live for the people of the city. And from the real estate side, such a kind of castle has a really high evaluation, because the real estate investment market is in Germany is really appealing for all Europe. But such a kind of asset class that are the service apartment, that normally are for social people, for old people, for students, or all what is service apartment, are having an appealing worldwide. So there are French funds, Canada funds, Japanese funds, US funds that are looking for such a asset class. And obviously the idea of the borrower is also build up a portfolio to make it more appealing, because as was Arturo saying before, some banks like to have a financing project of 20, 30, 50, 100 million instead of the single one little. So this is the idea behind of the castle projects, and also why we feel comfortable for such an asset class and such a development.
So are there people already living?
Yeah, so we finance 4 projects at the moment. One was already repaid through a bank financing, and one other, that is the biggest one that we have financed, is already active since 1.5 years. People are living inside. A second one is still in the end phase of development, but the 60% of the living surface is ready. So the people are already living inside there, and the rest is in the last side of the renovation. And the third one, it will be start the renovation soon, but it's not a castle. It used to be a really old, important hospital of the area near Leipzig that will be renovated soon. So the works already start, but the status of renovation was already advanced if you compare with the others. So we are having a lot of exit strategy at the moment as opportunity from the borrower. And yeah, everything is going in the right direction.
Sounds really nice project to follow also in other countries where there are these big houses left alone. So to give it a new life and to give people better.
There is a social background, so it's not only about the people living there, but it's all the environment around.
So, thank you. The next one, why are the interest rates in the Baltic countries going down at the moment? The investor who asked this question was always expecting rates of 10 to 12% per year. So should we start from the global perspective and then come down to the Baltic?
I think that's a good idea, yes. Since I'm responsible for all global markets, maybe I can give a little insight as to why the interest rates are as they are. I'm actually very, very happy people noticed that they got a little bit smaller. The reason is very, very simple. Life, economics, finance, EstateGuru is all about finding equilibrium, all about finding balance. Over this summer, we have received numerous complaints from our investors about lack of projects to invest in on the platform. Meanwhile, we were putting projects on the platform in record numbers. So why were they complaining? Because we had so many investors who believe in our product, who believe in our company, that a lot of projects were fully invested in a matter of seconds. We had precedents, cases, where projects worth of million euros were funded in less than 2 hours. So how do we tackle the situation? Well, we decided to lower the interest rates a little bit to attract more borrowers, more projects on the platform to satisfy the need of the projects from our investors. So the interest rates will forever fluctuate. They'll become lower, they'll become higher, all to reach this elusive equilibrium where all borrowers and investors are happy. So for investors, they can say, the projects we stand 11, 12% are still there. One word for you, how to invest. And for the borrowers, well, our rates have never been lower. Reach out to us and finance your projects with EstateGuru. But when it comes to the Baltic specifically, we have country managers of Latvia and Lithuania who can maybe give you a little deeper insight into the mechanics of interest rates in the Baltic countries. So maybe Arturas can take over here.
Yeah, and thank you, Mikhail. So basically, in general, if we are getting back to where we have started our webinar about that at the moment, even car dealers are asking you to can give your car for sale. So the same happens with apartment and all the other housing sector, which is we can all agree that this means that the liquidity of the product has increased, and high in liquidity means that it is a little bit low risky than it was before. So lower risk means that there are much more people and companies and other institutional investors and institutions who are at the moment eager to invest in the same project. Maybe a year or two ago they wouldn't even consider to go there, but now they are. And our investors at the moment, they have much more competition than they had before. Even physical persons or just some richer companies, they are even considering the real estate investment because at the moment it seems a little bit more secure. So that's how it comes to just a little bit lower interest. When there is so big supply of the money on the market, it's a simple rule of the market that the interest must go a little bit down. So when the borrower is sitting in front of the desk and he needs to take decision what type of money to take, and he can get it cheaper, so of course he takes he's trying to take a cheaper option, even though that he gets it from one-time investor. So it's up to our investors whether they want to compete with those guys who have €1 million on their account and they can afford themselves to invest 1 million or 2 million into one project and be the only one investor, or our investors want to take the same terms, be 3,000 or 4,000 people, doesn't matter, because they have the same right as that one rich person, only for slightly less interest. However, slightly less interest in a short-term loans like 12 months is definitely not a good thing in your portfolio in the long run. If you consider investing for 10 years or 20 years, short period of 8% is definitely not something which ruin your financial future. You will still get a pretty good return, and the liquidity of your collateral would stay at height.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think I would also like to add that it's not only about the interest. In the loan and in financing, it's not only the interest thing that's important. You have to look at the project overall. And today we are able to attract bigger developers, bigger projects. And obviously these projects are more secure, and that's why the interest usually is lower for these projects.
Yeah, so clear enough, very logical explanation, thank you. Is low loan LTV always good? So Matti, perhaps you would answer this question.
Yes, so I consider like low LTV or high LTV, it's a two-way street in a sense. Because having a low LTV, usually, of course, it's a good thing in that sense that in case of default, there's much more buffer. If the LTV is, let's say, 40%, and it might be that the asset could be liquidated to 50% of its value or whatever, and still the investors would get their principal back and interest. At the same time, higher LTVs usually mean that our risk department has considered that the project is pretty liquid. That, to use an example, in Helsinki city centers, we have had cases up to like 75% LTV. Actually, banks are financing, for example, apartments in Helsinki city center or in other places in Helsinki up to 85%. So they consider it being like really liquid because they are like easily transferred to a new buyer. And then, of course, one part of having low LTVs again is that sometimes our borrower don't need the whole amount that they could ask for. For example, if there's a 1 million project, but the need is only 300,000, then the LTV could also be 30%, although we would be ready even to make a higher LTV.
Yeah. So anyone wants to comment, add something?
I can add a simple thing is that we cannot take LTV as the only thing to take a look at.
Yes.
We need to consider LTV in the full context of the project, because like colleague just said, if the collateral is somewhere in the city center in a very good location, we definitely feel that it is very liquid. You read the report and you see that it's highly demanded, and you see low LTV here. This means that definitely collateral is very good, but for some reason the borrower doesn't need the full amount, and he simply needs a little bit less money. And also, at the same time, if at the same project we have high LTV, this means that simply the platform, and when we see the project, we simply believe that it can be this way. And as long as we do this business, and we have already done over 400 million in projects, so we kind of have a feeling which project might be successful, which might not. So this way, if we are allowing higher LTV, our risk team says that we feel it like a secure one, then this means that the collateral is kind of more liquid. If there is something, some land plot somewhere next to the city or not yet properly developed, and we have lower LTV, it still doesn't mean that it is better. It's some kind of a little bit other product, which still might be pretty secure.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. We might say that like our risk department does a superb job, and also I'm very happy to see that our investors also recognize it, because the next question says that the overall recovery of EstateGuru is pretty good. Thank you. But what's about the delayed German projects, and can we expect the same recovery performance than in other countries?
So this is actually a new topic for Germany as a fresh market. Obviously, EstateGuru has a process that is global, so our colleagues will talk about that by being in the market since longer time. But obviously, all the process that are organized are not only global, but is done as well due to the bureaucracy and the structure that is needed in the country. So at the moment, I don't have a real answer about a specific situation. So also time talking, I cannot have any base about experience. And I hope it will come answer as late as possible. But maybe, we have a situation of Lithuania and Finland that are pretty different, and they can talk about the experience. I don't know, from where you want to start?
Yeah, because processes are like sort of harmonized, and we have the quality control in all of the countries. So perhaps, I don't know, Arturas or Matti, about the general view on our recovery process. Like, what is the most important thing? Like, what guarantees that the recovery process is exactly the same in Germany, like it is in Lithuania? Because I know that Lithuania does a very, very good job. Like, we almost don't have defaults. Perhaps one was there, but yeah, recovery process is really like superb. So.
Yeah, thank you for a good word. As of now, we have around 12 cases which were recovered, which came to the default, and then we had to recover it. So we did those 12 cases already, like in these 4 years almost. So in general, the most successful recovery happens when we start cooperation with the borrower from the very beginning. We keep the pulse all the time on the developer and the borrower himself, depending on how how he's performing, if he's feeling well, etc. But basically, the main issues are happening when both sides, creditor and debtor, they doesn't speak. This happens very often, And sometimes, just for some simple psychological reasons, people who owe money and cannot pay, they are start trying to hide, and then when they are hiding their problems, they are only growing and growing and growing until there is no one who can solve it. However, we are like not lonely on this planet. We have partners, we have other companies, cooperational companies, etc., etc., etc. We don't hesitate to call our borrower and ask, how do you feel? Why are you, what is the reason for you being late? And sometimes, you know, it's very ridiculous how people are getting late and why they are hiding it. And sometimes it's very easy to help them even with one phone call, just to, or sometimes to remind them, or like to a little bit reschedule their other payment in order to bring them back to a proper payment. However, when it's still, we have one very important thing in our risk policy, I think that every time when we consider the project our platform, we barely mind, and our like one of the first ideas is how would we act, and is it liquid enough in order if we would need to sell it. That is one of our initial ideas, which is going to the risk committee before we approve the project. So this means that initially, by onboarding the project, we have already initial idea how would we need to start the sale of it. So we always are looking for some partners or in other developers or development companies who might need to or maybe would like to acquire such property and proceed with it. Of course, even before and when we are establishing the mortgage, we are checking whether we need to establish some additional mortgages on building permits or something else to make the project which could be put into enforcement a little bit more interesting for all the others, because it might be that we will take the full project, will fully take over the full sales, etc., etc. So we are getting in the situation when the borrower, of course, he would do everything to not to give this project to us for whatever LTV, 60 or 70. It doesn't even matter. Too much work is there, which we can simply take and sell to someone else for a very good price. So that's how it works as of now, and by now, at least in Lithuania.
So let's say that the recovery is not starting when there is a problem. It's starting even before. So after the first talk with the borrower that has idea of financing. And I think there was something also about the German project late. Actually, we don't have at the moment any late project. There are sometimes, like you were saying, stupid or little things happening. There was a system problem with our actual project. It was paid 1 week ago, but the system did not recognize the IBAN. And so now we are working to work, but the money are there, so it's just about a system. So it can happen also late on delays or late payments.
Yeah, and I just for our viewers and listeners that we will publish a blog post together with this recording, and actually we will cover all these questions and answers in more detail, so you can follow if something needs to be more like elaborate or you would like to know more. So and the next one, how should a beginner investor choose between which countries' projects to invest? Real estate investment has always its ups and downs. How to invest to minimize risk while maximizing returns? Seems easier said than done, yeah. True, all true. So I don't know who would like to start, because yeah, it's.
I have it's some question which time to time comes out. Lots of investors, they are calling and they have the same question: how should I choose a country or any other things within the project? So one of the main pieces of advice here, which I say, I always say that, dear investor, dear new investor, invest into the country which you understand the best. If you are just starting, if you don't understand what real investment is, what is real estate report, etc., I say that invest in something which is your domestic country or whatever, where you can read all the documents on your language, where you can even, if it's Estonia, Tallinn or whatever, or Vilnius, you can even drive to the place and take a look at the collateral. You might even find the phone of the borrower or the company. There are so many ways you can gain a little bit more of understanding and information which you need to make your investment decision. And for example, if you are someone like traveling and traveler, and maybe you travel often to Riga or any other countries where we also operate, and you can also touch the collateral there or touch the culture there, or maybe you are going to Germany time to time, at least to Oktoberfest, at least to go to Brandenburger Tor, and you can go or to Tiergarten or whatever, and you see the property as well there. That's something which is worth of consideration. And I would definitely say that this would be much more correct way to at least to choose the country rather than just poke a finger. I say never simply poke a finger. Read all the documents carefully, all the evaluation report, all the additional information. Check it on the maps, and only then make your final investment decision.
We do also have a monthly portfolio review that is explaining also the number inside the company. Could help as well to understand which EstateGuru country is performing in a way or in another. And so
that's a good answer. Thank you, Nico. That's
I mean,
you
we
made my
provide
day.
a lot of
You made
documents
my
as
day.
well, not only from the project side, but as well, portfolio review. There are a lot of information. There are the blog from the country manager, from some people inside the company as well, explaining. I mean, I don't know how many blog or interview I've done as well, our head of risk, where he's explaining the why and how we are choosing the project. So we provide quite a lot of information as well.
Yeah. Nico referred to, and I'm really gladly advertising this. We have a monthly loan report where we cover the situation of all our portfolio in all of the countries. And you can, if you don't get it right now and you are an investor, you can register on the platform and it will be in your mailbox in the beginning of each month. So feel free.
Yeah, I think I would also suggest, so as we are operating in Europe, there are big brokerage agencies, and every big agency publishes their analytic reports quarterly or even every month. And just go to these websites, check the analytics. Sometimes they cover the whole Europe, so you can read what are the differences of each country, how the market performs in these external reports as well.
And next one. There are often projects with the same borrower, but different names within several projects. Could EstateGuru please be more transparent with this information?
I might know about what they're talking. The names, probably, I don't know. So the names might be the SPV. Every investor might be the same UBO. So basically the person behind the real investor or owner of the company, of the group, is the same person. But then every SPV, so special purpose vehicle, is going to be used as an empty box in the beginning to acquire an asset. So it might change the name of the official borrower for us because it's the company, but behind there is always the person. And obviously we are aware because we screen everything from the asset up to the last beneficiary owner. So we are aware that there are the same investor behind, or as an investor, real estate investor, obviously, and a different name on the borrower as a borrower.
Is it very typical structure to use, or?
It's a typical structure for some of the developers to use SPVs for separate projects. But I think it's a good suggestion, which it's a technicality we can improve. So we can show related projects, and we should take it on board.
Yeah, most definitely. So thank you so much.
Just at this point, I think we need to educate a little bit our investors that basically any larger development company, which is, let's say, top 5 in Lithuania, in Estonia, and others, they have around 100 SPVs. One project manager of the large development company is the CEO of around 50 other companies development. Every single project in the city is built on the SPV. He has one manager, and then only then somewhere the mother company is standing. So this is a common practice of the real estate construction in the whole world, in the Europe at least. And sometimes I see that our investors, they are not they are not simply aware of this. And if you are not aware, it's of course very easy to misunderstand the thing. So when we have one person behind, it simply means that it's let's say one group of the developers beside, let's say 2, 3, or 4 projects. But it's absolutely normal, even though that they diversify their own investment risk into 4 projects on 4 different companies, in order if one goes bankrupt or default, all the group doesn't suffer fully. Yeah, this is simply diversification of the risk of the development. It's nothing else by that. So, dear investors, we are always doing our best and 100% to be transparent as possible to be.
And we have come to the last question. Kind of sad even. That was really nice discussion today. But here comes the last question. Why should I keep investing if I can receive higher returns on Mintos? I would say diversification and of course, if you believe it to real estate and secured loans, then, but
I think it's a completely different tools. Mintos is providing you investments in unsecured loans. So in the moment, the returns can be high, but you have almost zero collateral. In our case, it's always mortgage. There is a mortgage, there is a real collateral which you can visit, you can touch, you can sell to pay you back your investment. So it's a completely different tools.
And we even do not say, do not invest there or there. I mean, we spoke just before about our private investments. So the diversification from EstateGuru as a platform obviously is really good, because it's Europa-wide, would be probably in the future all Europe as well. So you have a lot of more choices from asset class and countries. But we do also invest or do in a different asset class, or I don't know, as well platform or whatever, because it's diversification important also in that. So
yeah, so
and usually high returns also mean higher risk.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
If you want high returns, you must be ready to onboard higher risk with your investment.
That with these golden words, we will summarize the discussion. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear audience. Thank you for listening us. Thank you following and taking interest into EstateGuru, and hopefully we'll see you soon. So thank you once again.